And every day I come to the White House, people are thanking me. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. No, these young, beautiful girls, these young, beautiful girls in the White House, you know, they come in. Now, I'm not supposed to say beautiful, but what the hell? These young, these gorgeous, beautiful girls, they want to be safe, and they come, Mr. President, may I speak to you? Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I said, why are you thanking me? Because a year and a half ago, I was afraid to leave. I was afraid to open the door of my apartment. And now I walk to the White House every morning, and I have absolutely no fear. Thank you, sir. Now I get it all the time. Men, women, older men, younger men, and older women and younger women, they're all saying thank you, and I know exactly what they mean. We lived in a hellhole. 2 years ago, we were in a hellhole, and now we have one of the safest cities, and it should be safe. It's our nation's capital. We represent the whole universe, frankly, because there's nothing like the United States. Look at what we've done.
Did Trump betrayed Karoline? Because you heard how they left her stuck in the plane in Turkey.
A stunning new twist has emerged in the controversy surrounding Karoline Leavitt's sudden White House exit. Iran's embassy in South Africa has now pushed a conspiracy theory claiming Leavitt resigned because Donald Trump betrayed her during the secret plane switch in Turkey. The claim suggests Leavitt was left aboard the so-called decoy Air Force One, while Trump secretly escaped on another aircraft. The bizarre claim came directly from Iran's embassy in South Africa. The embassy shared a photograph of Leavitt on X and appeared to celebrate her resignation. Its post accused Trump of betraying his press secretary and claimed he had sent her into danger while escaping in a catering truck. The Post then tied that alleged betrayal directly to Leavitt's decision to leave the White House. The controversy goes back to July 8. Trump was leaving Ankara, Turkey, amid an alleged security threat connected to Iran. According to reports, Trump initially boarded the aircraft designated as Air Force One, but then came the extraordinary move. Trump was secretly transported in a catering truck and moved onto a smaller Air Force Boeing C-32A. The original aircraft continued operating as the apparent presidential plane, effectively becoming a decoy. And this is where the Leavitt theory starts to fall apart. According to reports, Trump took a select group of aides with him, including Natalie Harp and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, but Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent remained aboard the original aircraft, along with other officials and journalists. The operation was reportedly designed to protect Trump from a potential threat, but there is no evidence in the reporting cited by Forbes that Leavitt was among those left aboard the decoy aircraft. In fact, the White House has directly rejected the claim. Asked about the theory, the White House told Snopes this is not true. She was not on the trip. New York Times reporter Maggie Haberman, who reported on the plane ruse, also told Snopes that neither she nor Leavitt was on the flight. That makes the Iranian embassy's version of events highly questionable. Leavitt announced her departure on Wednesday.
This is what Secret Service had to do. The guy has annoyed a lot of people. That's why he said, I am number one on their list. Are you number one? Are you number two? Are you number three? Are you number four? Anyway.
I have a lot of threats. I have a lot of threats that you don't know about.
This is such a notable moment here that the press, weeks gone by, were never informed that the president left Air Force One and flew out of Turkey on this decoy plane. And the fact is, the president didn't even acknowledge it himself when he landed halfway back to the U.S. while in London and asked by reporters about the threat from Iran to the aircraft. This is what he said.
Were you aware of any credible threat by Iran against Air Force One?
Well, I have a threat all the time. I'm number one on their list before you. But if I go, you go.
So part of the role of the White House press corps is to ensure the health, the safety, and the well-being of the President of the United States at literally every given moment. The Commander-in-Chief, the executive of the federal government, on behalf of the public. For more than a century, the White House press corps has played this role And if you go back to 2000, there was a moment where Bill Clinton, then the president, he flew into Pakistan on a decoy plane. But the Washington Post is reporting that at the time, the head of the White House Correspondents Association was notified by the White House about this intended plane because of the safety of the president. And what is even more difficult for this White House to explain after all these weeks is why they allowed that Air Force One, without the president on board, to take off from Turkey despite White House staff, the press, and other military personnel still on that aircraft, if there was in fact such a concern around a potential threat coming from Iran directed at that aircraft.
Allowing complete lawlessness and chaos across our country. We had 4 years of that under Joe Biden. Thanks to President Trump and Republicans and common sense policies across the board, our country is safer, our country is more affordable.
Karoline, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining, because it is laughable to hear you say on Fox News that America is more affordable. Because who is it more affordable for? Because that's not what the data or polling says. Even Trump's own supporters are saying that things are more expensive. And now, for the first time in more than a decade, voters are saying that they trust Democrats more than they trust Republicans on handling the economy, according to a new Reuters poll. And economists have been warning that Trump's own policies, whether it's his war of choice with Iran, his tariffs, or his mass deportations, are all making it harder to bring prices down. So from the way I and many other Americans see it, everything is more expensive, whether we're talking about food, gas, healthcare, or housing. But I will give you this, Karoline. America does seem increasingly affordable if you're a billionaire or a foreign government looking to buy influence. Heck, if you throw in a plane, Trump will give you an amazing deal. So maybe we should all celebrate, because Karoline claims that America is more affordable under Trump. So maybe I should grill myself a steak tonight, maybe a 22 per pound ribeye. And, I'll have to fill up my gas tank with $4.20 a gallon gas in order to get to the grocery store. And maybe I'll even do a nice little side salad with my steak. On second thought, maybe I should skip the salad unless I want diarrhea. But in all seriousness, I show these types of clips of what Karoline and other Trump administration officials say on Fox News so you can see the type of bullshit that they're spewing and how they're trying to gaslight their own voters. But clearly they learned nothing from the previous administration, because telling people they're doing great when in fact they feel like they're struggling didn't seem to work out great for the Biden folks.
Did Trump betrayed Karoline? Because you heard how they left her stuck in the plane in Turkey. So this is what is happening. Watch this.
When Donald Trump was fleeing from an Iranian assassination plot, he had to choose who to take with him in the catering truck. He chose Natalie Harp, the 35-year-old aide who previously wrote letters to him saying, "You're all that matters to me," instead of someone like Stephen Miller. According to the Washington Post, Trump chose 3 aides to join him in the catering truck to flee the Iranian plot. The aides were all loyalists to him: Dan Scavino, Natalie Harp, and Walt Nauta, who was indicted alongside Trump in the Jack Smith probe. Stephen Miller, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, was not chosen. Neither was any other cabinet official. Marco Rubio was not chosen. Now, Pete Hegseth, according to the Post event, it's not Stephen Miller. As always, I'll have more updates for you soon. Spread the word. Follow along to stay up to date.
So let me get this straight. The toughest president in American history escaped a NATO summit hiding in the back of a catering truck. Baby, you can't make this up. The Washington Post just dropped a whole blockbuster report about how Donald Trump was so terrified of a supposed Iranian threat while his plane was parked in Turkey that he left the entire press corps sitting on Air Force One. And completely clueless while he snuck out through a catering truck like he was dodging a restaurant tab. Then he hopped on a secret military plane with Pete Hegseth, flew to some Royal Air Force base in England, and pretended he was on Air Force One the whole time. And what do his supporters say? "Oh my God, it's like James Bond." No, boo. James Bond faces danger. This man was literally curled up between sandwich trays and coffee urns. That's not a spy thriller. That's a DoorDash escape route. But here's where it gets really interesting. Because when you line this up next to every single so-called assassination attempt since 2024, the pattern is wild. Butler, Pennsylvania, July 2024. He says an AR-15 bullet grazed his ear and left a tiny nick. Baby, AR-15 rounds don't leave tiny nicks. They cause devastating damage. But has he released a single medical record? Nope. He just wore a big old bandage for the cameras and moved on. Then Joe Rogan asks him on air, "Can I see the scar?" And Trump points to his ear like, "Yeah, it's right there. Tiny little thing, healed up real nice, sir." An AR-15. Healed up real nice, okay? White House Correspondents' Dinner, a guy named Cole Thomas Allen allegedly tried something, but this man never even got close to Trump. And what happened to Allen? Thrown in solitary, tortured, couldn't see a lawyer. A federal judge had to personally apologize to him. Meanwhile, Trump's whole cabinet was out there laughing, posting outfit pics like it was prom night. Then there's the UFC drone plot. Kash Patel claims the FBI stopped some massive coordinated attack with explosive drones, sniper teams, and a second wave storming the White House gates. And the suspects? A bunch of guys in their teens and 20s chatting on Signal, half of them from the MAGA world, mad about the Epstein cover-up. That's your terrorist cell? Really? And every single time. What does Trump say right after? This is why I need my golden ballroom built. A $1 billion vanity project funded by taxpayers. Drone attack? Ballroom. Dinner shooting? Ballroom. Guy walking around a golf course? You guessed it, ballroom. Even Tom Fitton, Trump's own guy from Judicial Watch, had to SUE Trump's FBI to get the Butler files. And when he did, Trump's FBI turned around and called Judicial Watch fake news. Your own people, sir. Your own people. So the next time somebody tells you this man is brave, remind them he hid in a catering truck while the press thought he was on Air Force One. That's not courage. That's dinner theater. Share this. Tag someone who still thinks this is normal and stay woke out here. Because the receipts don't lie, even when the man in charge does.
Karoline Leavitt, 28, with her husband, 60 years. Be honest, what is your first thought? Tell me what you think down in the comment.
Karoline Leavitt has spent these last 19 months putting Trump's personal interests over her professional duties of the role she is serving in. And that has meant lying to the public for Trump's benefit whenever and wherever she could, even about absolutely absurd things. Like when she emphatically repeated Trump's lies about vandalism at the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool.
The vandalism is very real, despite what Tim Walz wants to say. It's an imaginary problem. No, it is not. It's a very real problem. These deranged individuals, many of them longtime donors to the Democrat Party, to Barack Obama, to Act Blue, that have been vandalizing and desecrating our federal monument.
Not true. Any of it. And we know it's not true because the Trump administration admitted in court that it was their own shoddy contractor who caused damage to the reflecting pool. What a silly thing to lie about. You never want to lie, but what an absurd thing. Or how about the time she said this about the cost of Trump's ridiculous ballroom project?
Back to the ballroom, I'm afraid. I just wanted to ask, because in July, the White House said that it would cost $200 million. Yesterday, the president said $300 million. Is $300 million now the operative figure? And why did it go up by so much?
$300 million is the figure. And again, it's not going to cost the taxpayers a dime.
Also not true. I mean, thanks to reporting, we know Trump's ballroom will cost much more than $300 million. And a significant portion of that is coming from taxpayers. In fact, contractor estimates obtained by the Washington Post found that the project will cost at least $600 million, with more than half of that coming from taxpayers. And who could forget the time she tried to explain away the weird discoloration and bandages on Trump's hands by saying they were the result of vigorous handshaking. Remember this?
As for the bandages on the hand, we've also given you an explanation for that in the past. The president is literally constantly shaking hands. The Oval Office is like Grand Central Terminal.
I mean, and when she couldn't lie to reporters, she often resorted to just picking aggressive fights, like this moment in the wake of the tragic ICE shooting of Renee Good.
Why was Renee Good unfortunately and tragically killed?
Are you asking me my
Yeah.
opinion? Because an ICE agent acted recklessly and killed an unjustified.
Oh, okay. So you're a biased reporter with a left-wing opinion.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, because you're a left-wing hack. You're not a reporter. You're posing in this room as a journalist. And it's so clear by the premise of your question. And you and the people in the media who have such biases but fake like you're a journalist, you shouldn't even be sitting in that seat.
Now, don't get me wrong. The relationship between the press and the White House is supposed to be adversarial by design. I mean, the press in the room are supposed to push for more access, for more information. And there are times when it's absolutely appropriate for the press secretary to push back. But Karoline Leavitt didn't want to engage in good faith with those reporters and their tough questions. And so instead, she did everything she could to reshape that briefing room into her own personal safe space where she rarely had to answer a tough question, hardly ever. I mean, she only briefed once or twice a week max. Most press secretaries brief 5 days a week, including when they're traveling. Sometimes she simply yelled at the real reporters in the room. And over the course of time, she filled the room with MAGA sycophants. Every day she began her briefings with a question from what she called the new media seat.
Okay, just watch this. Donald Trump was so terrified of an Iranian assassination plot that he hid in a catering truck like a pathetic little loser weasel while using reporters as bait. After the NATO summit in Ankara, Turkey, on July 8th, he walked up the stairs of the old Air Force One waving for cameras, then secretly slipped out the other side. Officials ordered everyone aboard to shut the windows and shades so no one could watch the coward being driven away in that food delivery truck to a hidden military C-32, a plane. Defense Secretary Hegseth boarded with him. The old Air Force One took off as a decoy under the Air Force One call sign, carrying reporters and staff who had no idea Trump had put a bullseye on their heads. He flew secretly to Mildenhall Air Force Base in the United Kingdom, transferred, then boarded the Qatari-gifted Air Force One home. He lied on social media, claiming the new plane was just sent ahead so troops could tour it. When asked about Iranian threats in the closed blinds, the weak loser smirked, "If I go, you go," and denied any real security concern. The Washington Post exposed the entire ruse. What a vile, cowardly fraud, setting the press up to die while he cowered in a catering box.
Just now, while on tarmac at Joint Base Andrews, President Trump woke up to the press with a printed article showing the sharpest prescription drop in 60 years. He also had a print out bragging about 15 months straight of zero releases at the border. Are you impressed? Is anybody impressed? You are. Watch this.
So, the headline today is, does everybody know Karoline? She's with us. The headline today is exactly that. Can you see it? It said prescription drug prices record sharpest drop in more than 60 years. Okay, got it? Everybody have it? And I told you that was going to happen. The second headline is the says Trump administration marks 15 straight months with zero border releases as apprehensions plunge 94%. In other words, the border, and that means for 15 straight months we had zero people crossing the border. Are you impressed? Is anybody impressed? You are. Thank you. I'll give you the first question, therefore. Go ahead. Go ahead. Anybody? What do you want to accomplish? I have a lot of things that are happening, a lot of good things. The economy is doing unbelievably from the standpoint of Wall Street. We just set another record, as you know. It's 80 times where we're the best market in history. And that's good for 401ks, and it's good for a lot of things, but it's great for 401ks and jobs. I always say it's great for 401ks and jobs. So we hit number 80 record. So 80 days out of a short 1.5 years. We have a record stock market. 401ks have set a new record. And you take a look at the border, 15 months, zero people coming through our southern border. Pretty amazing. And drug prices, again, Prescription drug prices down more than at any time over 60 years. Okay, what else do I have to say?
Family members of U.S.
They're calling Trump having to hide from Iran in that catering cart Operation Orange Chicken.
It is the most recognizable plane in the world, Air Force One. It's really a call sign, not a specific aircraft. It refers to whatever plane the president is on. I had the unforgettable experience of traveling aboard Air Force One on many occasions with each of the last three presidents, but never heard of a situation like this. An extraordinary, elaborate operation just last month where President Trump secretly flew from Turkey on an alternate military plane while the White House made it appear that he was on Air Force One. The Washington Post, first to report the secret mission was prompted by an Iranian assassination threat unbeknownst to the press corps and some White House staff members who believed they were on the same plane as the president. It's a lot. Let's walk you through what happened here. The president flew to Turkey last month for the NATO summit. He arrived aboard that controversial $400 million Qatari gifted plane. But for the flight back, cameras rolled as you see him there boarding the older Air Force One. But what we now know is that minutes later, the president actually got off that plane out of sight of the cameras and was secretly shuttled by an airport catering truck to a smaller plane nearby. Here is the video from that moment. You can see the catering truck there that we've lit up for you that would later hold the president parked right next to Air Force One. At the same time, members of the media and other staff were seen boarding the plane in the back. That's where we would usually get on. And now watch, there goes the catering truck pulling away from the aircraft, the president aboard. Keeping the deception alive, after landing in the UK for a layover, the president descended the stairs of the old Air Force One for all the world to see. We do not know, we should say, how he was moved from the smaller plane back onto Air Force One. At the time, news outlets, including MS Now, originally reported how President Trump had traveled back from Turkey based on what could be seen and White House updates. Reporters on that plane apparently did notice that something was off, and they even asked the president about it. Listen.
Do you know why they had us close our window blinds? That was no.
Well, yeah, because you're probably on a dangerous thing because of the sleazebags that we have to deal with.
So you think that Iran was possibly thinking?
Well, I mean, if they asked you to close your windows, probably they feel that way. They didn't ask me to close mine, but if they did, I would have done it.
Are you aware of any credible threat by Iran against Air Force
Well, I have
One?
a threat all the time. I'm number one on their list before you. But if I go, you go.
There's a story going around about Trump, 3 planes, an assassination plot, and a catering truck. Here it is. A few months back, the US president was gifted this fancy 747-8 by Qatar, which he began using in early July instead of Air Force One. He took that Boeing to the NATO summit in Ankara. But this wasn't just any summit. It coincided with the collapse of the US-Iran ceasefire and renewed bombings and attacks. So on July 8, something happened. Instead of flying out on that Qatari gifted plane, he switched back to an older model Air Force One. Now, he claimed he wanted to take it for one last hurrah to England. The White House press corps boarded the plane after the president. But it turns out Trump didn't actually travel on that aircraft either. He boarded it. There's video of that happening. But the Washington Post has revealed the president secretly slipped out of the aircraft into a catering truck. He was then spirited away to a military aircraft, and he flew to England on that instead. A plane full of journalists on the old Air Force One was being used as a decoy amid, according to reports, an Israeli warning that Iran planned to blow the president's plane out of the sky. But the journalists weren't told, not about the threat, nor about the president's secret switch. Many White House officials were also kept in the dark. And as you might imagine, some of those individuals are furious. They were used as decoys and potentially put in danger to protect the president.
Why did you need to do that? Well, it's only up to Secret Service. I just follow what they'd like to do.
Why was it too dangerous for you to fly on Air Force One, but
Well,
not
I don't
too
know.
dangerous
I
for the
think
press?
actually the plane that I flew on was at greater risk.
One reporter surmised that crew, guests, press pool were considered expendable. Trump flew home from the UK with reporters and everyone else on the new Air Force One. But listen to this exchange which took place on board that plane.
Are you aware of any credible threat by Iran against Air Force
Well, I have
One?
a threat all the time. I'm number one on their list before you. But if I go, you go. Right?
Well, Not exactly.
So President Trump took a secret flight out of Turkey last month amid assassination threats from Iran. Chief Global Affairs Correspondent Martha Raddatz is in Washington with those details. Good morning to you, Martha.
Good morning, Robin. This is an astonishing story, reportedly of secrecy and deception to keep the president safe, while a plane load of reporters and White House staff on Air Force One reportedly served as unwitting decoys.
It was at the NATO summit last month in Turkey where this all began. Concerns so high that Iran might target President Trump on his trip home that the president, the press corps, and White House staff boarded the older, more secure Air Force One instead of the newer Qatari-built jet. But this morning, the Washington Post reporting President Trump quickly sneaked off the plane and into a catering truck before boarding a smaller, far less conspicuous military aircraft to begin the journey home.
This type of a protective move is usually done with the utmost secrecy. Very few people actually know what happens, and it really goes to the secret in the Secret Service, which is often when it does its best work.
In video recorded that day, you could see as the president walks up the steps to Air Force One, waves goodbye, and as the camera pulls back, there is the catering truck just below the plane. Then 5 minutes later, the press boards Air Force One off to the right, while the catering truck pulls away, reportedly with the president inside. The trunk is then seen pulling up behind another military aircraft parked behind Air Force One. The president had flown to the NATO summit on the new Qatari-gifted aircraft. Then the Secret Service had decided to fly everyone home on the older blue and white model. All three planes, the Qatari-gifted jet, the Legacy Air Force One carrying staff and press, and the military craft reportedly carrying the president, landed in Britain. It's there that the president is reportedly secreted back on to the Legacy aircraft, where he was seen by cameras again deplaning and boarding the Qatari-gifted jet. Before leaving Turkey, the plane carrying staff and press corps had its transponder shut off and had been directed to close their window shades.
Do you know why they had us close our window blinds? That was no. Well, yeah, because you're, probably on a dangerous thing because of the sleaze bags that we have to deal with.
The White House press corps and the White House staff would have been unaware if the plane they left Turkey on was being used as a decoy, deemed too dangerous for the president to remain on board. The White House neither confirmed nor denied the Post reporting, saying in a statement, the new Air Force One is a state-of-the-art aircraft that has been fitted with high-level security protocols that ensure the safety of the president and his staff. As the president has said recently, there are many enemies of America who have their sights on him, and we use every tool at our disposal to address those threats. Rebecca, quite a story.
Quite a story, as you said, Martha. All right, thank you.
I have two questions for you. Sure. Democrats, including former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Bray, attacked prayer and pushed gun control in the aftermath of yesterday's shooting. What's the White House's response to their comments?
Yes, I saw the comments of my predecessor, Ms. Psaki, and frankly, I think they're incredibly insensitive and disrespectful to the tens of millions of Americans of faith across this country who believe in the power of prayer, who believe that prayer works, and who believe that in a time of mourning like this, when beautiful young children were killed while praying in a church, it's utterly disrespectful to deride the power of prayer in this country, and it's disrespectful to the millions of Americans of faith. And I would encourage Ms. Psaki to pray for these families themselves who need it right now more than ever. Allowing complete lawlessness and chaos across our country. We had 4 years of that under Joe Biden. Thanks to President Trump and Republicans and common sense policies across the board, our country is safer, our country is more affordable.
This sounds like a movie, but it's real. It's a real story. Watch this.
A catering truck. It's not a red carpet, is it? This sounds like something out of a James Bond film. Is this normal?
This is normal every day for the Secret Service. It is not normal for the public to be aware of these. It's the oldest of protective methodologies. If an adversary thinks you're in one vehicle or aircraft and you're in another, you significantly reduce the threat profile for all of them. While it's not a normal occurrence for travel with the president in a war zone, it would be something that would be a smart and prudent protective measure that the public would not be aware of.
So this is something, well, getting creative is something that the Secret Service would do. Are you surprised we know about this and the details? Because I'm thinking that on one side, it's good for the public to know that there are threats, but on the other side, the enemy will know that if this happens in the future, if a catering truck pulls up alongside a plane that is meant to be carrying the president, hey, it could have the president in, and that could actually thwart future, operations.
That's a brilliant question, and you're the first journalist I've spoken to around the world to ask that, because this specific threat had to have been actionable and exigent for them to do this rather unorthodox move of the President of the United States to an alternate aircraft. However, that threat ended that day when he successfully returned with all of those aircraft to the United Kingdom and then back to the United States. However, whatever threat decided it was prudent to release this to the press and release this particular protective methodology may still be traveling with the president. So while this one point in time security incident is interesting, the bigger question is what insider threat thought it was prudent to share these techniques and tactics with the world. The public should know that these threats exist and they can be mitigated by these professionals. How that's done isn't always for public discourse.
So are you suggesting that this is a leak that shouldn't have been made, or this is the Secret Service putting it out there to say, pat us on the back because we're great and we've done this amazing thing?
The Secret Service would be the last group that would advertise this capability or method.
So how do we know then? Why has this got out then?
That's a great question. Ask yourself, among the 50 groups that travel with the president, who is most up in arms right now about this incident occurring? The Secret Service would only endanger themselves and every protectee they're sworn to protect by revealing their methods. Secret is 1/4 of their name in the United States Secret Service. They are not the one that I consider would be a risk right now of this insider threat. Anyone that travels with this retinue of the president or was working in the operations on the ground at the airport, it could be any number of people. But to me, that's where the scrutiny needs to be put. To question the men and women of the Secret Service's integrity to keep secrets is almost laughable, considering this is something they do every day. And it not only keeps the president safe, it keeps them safe.
Thank you for watching Great Minds Black.